Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him
Not good. Believe me, not good.
All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome, one and all. This is, of course, the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss. Russell Dobular is still in India. He is traveling right now, but don't worry, I came prepared. As always, we have a full house tonight. First, you all know who she is. She's our guest host, Tusker. Tusker, what's up? Thanks for joining.
Yeah, anytime.
Of course. Tusker is one of our loyal viewers and supporters. She's a patron. Patreon members have call-in access to this show, and she used that to call in a few times and worked as a sort of informal audition, because here you are filling in for Russell.
Yeah, exactly. How's Russell doing on the SPF? Do you think he's got a sunburn yet?
Oh, it looks like from the pictures he's sent me, it looks like he's doing pretty well. And I am going to edit together a little montage of video footage from him. He's given me that to do. He sent me some video clips to edit for him. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's been a busy week, but I will by Sunday, I promise, have that ready. It's a terrible business decision on my part having you co-host, because you're one of our most generous super chat donors. So now you're going to be busy. So if whoever wants to make up for that, tip jar is out and open. But thank you,
I'm
Tusker.
not going to kick it off. So you guys, someone else is going to have to kick it off.
Someone else is going to have to kick it off. Who's going to step up? Who's our pinch hitter here? Let's see who's first. But like I said, we have a full show and a full house. We're going to introduce our first special guest here of the evening. She is a free Assange activist who's helping out with the free Assange element of the Rage Against the War Machine rally coming up this weekend. She's also the host of the Misty Winston show on TNT Radio. She's gracious enough to have invited me to guest on that program tomorrow, so I'll be on. But first, she's coming here. Misty, thank you so much. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we wanted to do something about this Rage Against the War Machine rally, and I was thinking about people who we might want to interview for it and do a couple of segments with. And then I saw that in addition to this Rage Against the War Machine rally in February, there's also a Free Assange rally on April 11th in Washington, D.C. as well. So I figured you were perfect to bring on, since I wanted to plug both of those. So can you talk a little bit about either of those, whichever you want first?
Yeah, I mean, we can start. I'll just briefly touch on the April 11th one, because we don't have a lot of details yet. We just started planning it, and then we can get into some details. I know there's a lot going on with the Rage Against the War Machine rally. So the Action for Assange is the group that I'm a part of. We have a show on YouTube as well, and Rockfan and all of that stuff. But we regularly organize events in DC for Julian Assange, and April 11th is the 4-year anniversary of him being essentially kidnapped from the Ecuadorian embassy. So we realize it's a Tuesday. That's probably going to make it a little bit more difficult to get people to come out, but it is the anniversary, and I thought it was really important to have a presence in DC on the day. So we just started organizing that. We're starting to get together some ideas of, do we want to be at the DOJ? Do we want to go to the CIA? Do we want to do a march from different media buildings. So we're trying to figure out a game plan, but we'll have more details as that comes up. We're trying to get through this Rage Against the War Machine thing, and then we'll start planning a little bit more extensively. So you can follow Action for Assange on Twitter. It's action_4 Assange. And there will be more details that come out as we kind of build upon our organizing there.
Yeah, I saw a video that you did, very moving. I know a lot of people did it. Made a video addressed to his kids about, working to free him. It's a heart-wrenching thing. I mean, that's happening to one man, and then on this large scale, we have potential World War III, potential nuclear war. But both of those agenda items are obviously part of the Rage Against the War Machine rally, which is set to take place in Washington, D.C. this Sunday, February 19th. Now, we know, obviously, that controversy has erupted over the inclusion of many who many deem to be sort of problematic people, including Scott Ritter, who recently withdrew over pressure from the Libertarian Party. Veterans for Peace and Code Pink have stepped down over the inclusion of certain people who they deem too far right for their taste, like Jackson Hinkle, whose stances on LGBT issues they oppose and therefore don't wish to share a stage with him. But one speaker who remains on the docket is Chris Hedges, who's one of my favorite writers and thinkers of our time, and he published a Substack piece earlier this week explaining his decision to remain on the speaker list. And that piece was called "There Are No Permanent Allies, Only Permanent Power." And so I'm going to read a few little segments from here, and then I'm going to toss to both of you guys to get your takes on this, because I thought this was a great piece. The demands of Rage Against the War Machine rally are ones I share. They include not one more penny for war in Ukraine, negotiate peace, stop the war inflation, disband NATO, global nuclear de-escalation, slash the Pentagon budget, abolish the CIA and military-industrial deep state, abolish war and empire, restore civil liberties, and, of course, free Julian. He goes on to write, these are not in order, by the way. This is just kind of reading what I feel are the most important parts, at least in the context of this conversation. To those who suffer directly from U.S. aggression, these demands are not academic and theoretical issues. The victims of this militarism do not have the luxury of virtue signaling. They want the rule of law to be reinstated and the slaughter stopped. So do I. They welcome any ally who opposes endless war. For them, it is a matter of life or death. If some of those on the right are anti-war, if they also want to free Julian Assange, it makes no sense to ignore them. These are urgent existential issues that, if we do not mobilize soon, could see us slip into a direct confrontation with Russia and perhaps China, which could lead, of course, to nuclear war. He goes on, those who will pay the steepest price for this paralysis are those killed, wounded, and displaced by the war machine. And then he goes on to list, obviously, 900 civilians killed directly and more indirectly as a result of the post-9/11 U.S. wars. And as the empire unravels, the woke left, demanding moral absolutism, marginalizes and discredits itself at a moment of crisis. This myopia is a gift to the oligarchs, militarists, and Christian fascists we must defeat. So I want to get your guys' take on this. Tusker, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I don't really understand the quibbling over supporting this event. I mean, this has to do with ending a particular war, also just anti-war in general. But in my estimation, it just seems to me that if you have a nuclear war, I noticed particularly in that article, it mentioned that, they're collaborating with people that are anti-socialist, they're collaborating with people that are fascist, right-leaning. I'm sorry, in a nuclear war, all the socialists are going to die. Every single marginalized group of people is going to die in a nuclear war. Like, let's keep priorities straight here so that we can actually get something done when it comes to global disaster.
Misty?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think a lot of people are incapable of thinking like a single issue solidarity event. There are people who are speaking at that event that I don't agree with on lots of things. There are people who are organizing the event that I don't like and don't agree with on a lot of things. None of that matters. As Tusker just said, all of our disagreements are a moot point if we're all dead. I mean, and we're really up against it at this point. And we need a revitalization of the anti-war movement so desperately in this country. It has been all but completely neutered. And we are at a really critical juncture right now. We're not only, poking the Russian bear, we're now also starting to with China. I mean, we're 2 nuclear powers now that we're starting to rile up, and it's we need to start coming together against these things, and we need to do it now. I mean, we really don't have time for this nitpicking and the purity aspect of. It's like people think that we're going to have this magical perfect coalition where we're going to have a rally where nobody gets angry about any of it. That just isn't going to happen. It doesn't exist. And Chris Hedges has talked about this for a long time. There's no such thing as permanent allies or permanent enemies. And we have to learn to come together where and when we can to fight for whatever we agree on.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think he was a great person to write this article, since he has taken stances that could be perceived by some at the rally as sort of too harsh on Russia, if you will, right? Because he said the invasion is a crime, and there are certain people who are going to speak at this rally who don't feel that way. And so I thought that him writing this piece to be like, look, there are people on this rally docket who I think are out of bounds on some issues, or at least incorrect on some issues, right? But I'm willing to share a stage with them because there is a greater purpose here that we are all working towards. I would posit this to some people who are taking issue with, Jackson Hinkle's presence on the stage, or obviously Ritter is out now, but, even some of the other people on that list. Like, what if we were all going to go to East Palestine, Ohio right now, and we were going to engage in mass action, civil disobedience, until the water is checked, until every house is checked? None of this bullshit, Mayor Pete, oh, here's a number to call if you want your house checked. No. We're going to go, and we are going to demonstrate en masse in that town until something is done about this. Would we be picky and choosy about who was joining us?
Yes,
no.
They would.
Well,
no, they would.
Well, the
they
World
would.
Socialist website would.
Yeah.
We're going to get to. But would it make sense? Yeah.
I'm not checking anyone's house unless they are for $15 minimum wage.
Right? If they, and because I organize all the time, right? And I often ask people, do you expect me legitimately to walk around every event that I organize with a checklist and ask everybody? And if you're guilty of wrongthink, I'm going to ask you to leave? Of course not. That's absurd. It really is silly. I think that there is legitimate criticism of every action, every event that's planned. I think that you can be constructive in that criticism, but the stuff that I have seen leveled at the Rage Against the War Machine rally is really kind of silly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's amazing. And how much of this do you think is a function of the left, certain parts of the left, most parts of the left who we deal with, because we are online people ourselves. We wouldn't be doing the show if we weren't online. But I always said part of the left's problem is that they're too online, and they get a sense that the whole world is online. Therefore, because when we're online, we are able to vet everyone we interact with, right? If I want to tweet at you, I can go back and read every tweet you ever sent. And I can say, aha, you said something back in 2019 that I hate. Therefore, I'm not going to follow you, or I'm going to block you or mute you, whatever. Life isn't like that. You get out in a field with somebody. You get out in a rally crowd. You fill a gymnasium with people. Their histories are not readily available to you. You don't have that information. So you can't vet everybody. And that's actually good for organizing, not bad for organizing. So as 2 other people who are obviously joining me as being very online people, what do you think about that? Are we too online? Is this a barrier? That's okay. I have 2 cats and a dog. And
they're insane. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on
war
with them right
zone
now.
in here, believe me. That's why I have this curtain up, because in back of me, there's pandemonium.
It's Zoomy time, apparently. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. But yes, I think that you're absolutely right. And I think that, it's very... we're seeing it happen in East Palestine right now. Is when shit hits the fan, the people that help you are your neighbors, and you're not going to say, oh well, who did you vote for last election? Oh, I can't accept your help because you voted for Trump or you voted for Biden. You just help each other. And when it really boils down to it, none of that stuff really matters. And Julian Assange has talked about this a million times, and he said all of our differences on ideologies really don't make any difference, because first of all, our ideas about each other and those ideologies those are sold to us. Those ideas are sold to us by the same people that lie us into these wars, right? Like the word socialist has been completely co-opted and bastardized. It doesn't even have a meaning anymore. Same way with libertarian, same way with, all of these words have been, that's why I don't like labels. They're always used to divide us. And so all of our ideas about each other, we really don't even know. And I think that labels are a really easy way for people to be lazy and just kind of peg you for who they want to believe that you are without actually taking the time to get to know what you stand for. And so it's really disappointing to see that there's been so many people who, they are incredibly online. And it makes me sad because I feel like the online left, Caitlin Johnstone has a great tweet about this out earlier today. But she's just talking about how, and I say this all the time, you isolate yourself into this bubble. And then I feel like a lot of these people are more concerned with being able to like be smugly superior in their little safe space than they are about actually getting anything done. Because listen, I'm selfish. I want to end these wars. And I don't think the people of Ukraine, Yemen, Syria, Iran, Venezuela, all of these, Somalia, all of these countries that we're brutalizing, I don't think they care that Jimmy Dore has a house. I just don't think that they care.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Tusker, do you have anything to add to that before we move on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as far as like what Misty, I think you're correct. I mean, the labels have gotten bastardized. And I think it's just become something where people log in online and then they claim whatever label, even though they have no idea what it means. They actually haven't done the history. They haven't like looked into anything like that, really actually done any research. And then they just claim it as a title. And then guess what you can do to organize against something like the Rage Against the War Machine thing? You can have so-called like respected leftists or whatever come out with these articles, and then that sways people away. They just like look at a snapshot of it, and then they can use a couple of those keywords. Oh, you mean this isn't, there are people up there that are anti-socialist or, blah, blah, blah. And then that's just like a signal to someone, oh, well, I identify as that. That's what I'm told is a good thing to be. So, I can't go to that. I can't support that. And this is terrible for everyone. It's a siloing off of anyone that's willing to get anything done. And if you're not willing to get anything done, then stay home and stay online and don't comment. Because certainly none of the smear pieces, they didn't start their own anti-war rally.
Well, here's the thing about that, because you're somewhat right about that, but they would argue they have, and actually World Socialist website references that, which is part of the reason why I want to read that piece, because while what you say maybe was technically not correct, it may as well be right. And that's the point that I really want to drive home. Before we do that, I have to do a little bit of capitalism here. Take some super chats. Ellen Jimerson, thank you, kicking it off for the $5. We appreciate you, Ellen. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the show. Thank you. Pickle the Pirate. Haven't seen you here before, but welcome. If you haven't been here before, please subscribe. Kinky, $10. I love your always great coverage of important stories. Well, thank you very much, Kinky. Appreciate that. Thank you for the donation. Bennett, war is not healthy for libertarians, socialists, and other living things. Yes, there you go. Excellent. Thank you for the $10. Virtuoso. Thanks, Virtuoso. We can't have nice things unless everyone in the movement is friends with each other. All right. Thank you, Virtuoso. We appreciate that. All right, now that my books are in order, we can go to the World Socialist website, put out a piece, a hit piece on the rally. This, I believe, dropped today, and I'm going to read a few.
Totally unsurprising from them, by the way.
It's funny you say that, because maybe I just haven't read them much, because to be honest, I've always found that website a bit boring. And so ultimately I'm an entertainment junkie, right? So if I find something boring, I just kind of check out. But they dropped an article by Joseph Kishore disavowing the rally for its alliance with the extreme right, as they say. Now, after trashing the rally for its inclusion of anti-socialists, right-wingers, and even fascists, they called out Hedges specifically for his article defending the rally. Hedges is known as a radical critic of American imperialism, heavily influenced by Noam Chomsky and substituting middle-class moralizing for scientific political analysis. Hedges rejects Marxism and is simply implacably hostile to the Trotskyites, an element of his politics that has become ever more explicit. His writings are characterized by a demoralized, even obsessive pessimism and explicit opposition to the organization of the working class as an independent political force. He is not necessarily opposed to working class participation in a popular movement, but only in a subordinate political role. Now, that is just a straight up smear, and I would argue an outright lie.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Hedges, here's an article that he wrote for Salon just about a year ago. America's new class war. Organized labor is back. Forget the woke Democrats and timid union leaders. Workers across the country are standing up and fighting back. And he goes on to say here, the only way left to alter the balance of power and force concessions from the ruling capitalist class is to mobilize and strike. Forget the woke Democrats. This is class war. So the idea that Chris Hedges is interested in sort of subordinating or bringing to heel a working class movement is just absolute nonsense. I mean, that's just an absolute smear. That's absurd. But they go on. The role of Rage Against the War Machine rally is not to develop a movement against imperialist war, but to confuse and disorient young people. The open support for the U.S.-NATO war against Russia by the Democratic Socialists of America and other pseudo-left groups has facilitated the ability of the right wing to fraudulently present itself as an opponent of war with the assistance of Hedges and company. Now, can we just stop there? I don't even have to read the rest of that section. If you think the DSA is too soft on war, then why are you also tearing down Hedges and this rally? Like, this should be called the Up Your Own Ass website, because that's what these people are. Like, nobody's good enough for them. What do they think? They're going to mobilize 50 million Trotskyists to go march on Washington? Like, this is utterly delusional. This brings to mind a quote by, it was Glenn Greenwald, who said, the left seems to be the only political faction that seeks to make itself smaller. They actually seek to shrink, not to expand, because it's a religious motivation. It's not a political motivation. It's a way of expressing your purity as the one true distilled leftist, right? So anyway, I'm not going to read the rest of that because that would just be a waste of time. But what do you guys think of that segment there?
I talk about this all the time. Again, it's like the, I mean, I hate to even call them left. I hate labels anyways, but we'll use that for the sake of simplicity here. But the online left, it legitimately feels like they are not interested in winning. They don't want to actually get anything done. They just want to feel, better than everybody else. You know what I mean? Like they don't want anybody to join their club. They're not willing to do any outreach whatsoever. And it seems as if they are making the assertion that anybody to the right of Bernie Sanders is a literal Nazi. And I hate to tell you, there's a whole lot of people in between Bernie Sanders and actual Nazis. I live in small town Ohio. It's Trump country around here, surrounded by them. They're not bad people. Are they wrong on some things? Yes. Have they been propagandized against the wrong things and the wrong people? Absolutely. But they're not bad people. They're hardworking people who are getting screwed over by the exact same system we're getting screwed over by. And they agree with us on a lot. If you strip away a lot of the labels and the kind of socialist language and stuff, if you talk to them about healthcare, for example, they want healthcare. Like, if you just talk to them and you don't sneer at them and look down your nose at them and treat them as if they're, idiots, it's very easy to have conversations with them and realize that we do have a lot of things in common. We do have a lot of common enemies, and we can work together on those things. But these people that we're talking about, they won't even attempt it. It's like they think that they're above having those conversations with people. And it's a really frustrating thing, because we're never going to get anything done if we don't seek to bring more people into the fight.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely well said. And so, I'm sorry, Tusker, do you have anything to add?
I mean, I was just, as far as them smearing Chris Hedges, it sounds to me like every single thing that they said about Chris Hedges is actually projection on their part. They're literally describing themselves. That's how you know someone's not being genuine and they're only seeking to divide. Whatever small amount, like small movement that the actual left is trying to build, like, we just want to get something done. People that don't want to get something done, they write hit pieces.
Yeah, and that really does seem the motivation. I mentioned on a whole, for a lot of people, it's this religious expression of purity, right? But I also think, because I've heard it said by some people, because they have a lot of famous people at this Rage Against the War Machine rally, right? I've heard it said that, they're doing this to build their brand, and there's a lot of ego involved to build audiences for their shows, or some, people who want to run for office. And, that's fine. Look, you're always going to have ego involved whenever you have public figures involved in anything, right? But that ignores the other dynamic, which is that there's egos on the other side. There's branding on the other side. I'm sorry, Code Pink telling Medea Benjamin they don't want her speaking, that's about ego and branding as well, just as much as it might be about ego and branding to a certain extent for whatever podcasters or YouTubers are showing up. Like, these organizations have brands, they have audiences, they have followers, they have funders, and they want to stay on brand. And a lot of them feel very threatened by the idea of going off brand because they don't want to alienate their audiences or their followers or their donors. Just because they don't have a show doesn't mean there's not ego and branding on their part. And so I think organizations like Code Pink, Veterans for Peace, websites like World Socialist Website, you know, they have a certain element of ego in this as well. What do you guys think?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I think you're absolutely dead on. And I think Code Pink really disappointed me. I mean, it's not surprising necessarily. I've worked with them some on Assange stuff. It's not really surprising. They're I hate to say mainstream, but they are kind of, you know what I mean? Like, they really are worried about their image and all of that stuff, and which I get to some extent, because you do have donors that you need to worry about and you've got to keep the lights on and all of that stuff. But it's really unfortunate that kind of thing takes precedence over, you know, preventing a nuclear war. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what books you read. I don't care what ism you subscribe to. If you want to work with me on preventing a nuclear war and then tearing down the military industrial complex, then welcome aboard. It doesn't mean we have to like be besties. We don't have to go out to dinner. We're not going to like go on vacation together or have play dates with our kids. But if we're going to work together on that thing that I desperately care about, then I'm happy to have you on board. We need the numbers. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of ego involved on both sides. And again, that's not to say that you can't ask questions about these events, that you can't criticize these events. I am totally open. There was a lot of conversation about being transparent about the finances. Absolutely, 100%. And they have promised that they're going to be. They haven't really paid for anything yet. So once they pay for all that stuff, it's all going to be available online. And I think that that's a legitimate criticism and a legitimate question to ask. But when you start to see these people just seek to tear it down at any cost, and they jump from talking point to talking point. First it was Ritter, then it was the finances, then it was, you've got the little Rushites, and and once they start jumping from subject to subject and they can't even like focus their criticism, that's when you know it's just a smear job and it's not really about being constructive. And again, everybody who's criticizing it, you are more than welcome to host your own event. But we need more of these events, not less. So if you have an issue with the way this one's being run, then please start your own.
Oh, that was the other thing I forgot to mention. That's why I should have read the last slide. World Socialist Website mentioned, hey, we had an event on December 10th. We had a rally, an anti-war rally on December 10th. That was a socialist war rally. That's a worthwhile war rally. Oh, really? Because I never heard of it until I read this hit piece that you did on Rage Against the War Machine. Like, you're not a movement unless you move, unless you build, unless you act, unless you move forward. Turns out that rally looked to be a YouTube rally, an online virtual event. That got 5,000 views over the past 2 months. We can get 10,000 views making fun of Kyle Kalinski's hair. And they got 5,000 views on a supposed war rally that they're so proud of. That was the pure example of the war rally. So yes, Tusker, to your point before, it's not that they're not organizing them. It's that they suck at organizing them because they only appeal to people who already agree with them on every single thing, which for a Trotskyist website, I'm sorry, this is America. There ain't that many people out there who you're going to get involved in a Trotskyist anti-war rally. Anyway, we got to move on. Misty, I know you got a show in an hour and a half, but why don't you get your plugs in? Because I'm going to be on your show tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I do post a lot about Assange, constant updates. So I'm at Sarcasm Stardust. You can also follow Action for Assange. That's where you're going to be able to find information as we develop the plans for the April 11th rally. So that's Action @ Action _4 Assange. So you can follow there for that information. And then again, I'm on TNT Radio Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. And tonight I have my good friend Uncle Warren. He was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he.
Oh yeah, he's here all the time. He's hanging around here somewhere.
I'm very excited to talk to him. He used to be on my old show before I took a break, and he joked that he was a guest so often he wanted a little punch card and he was going to get a free sandwich when he got to 10 visits. So we're trying to get him that sandwich. So everybody can tune in at 10 o'clock tonight on TNT Radio. It's tntradio.live. And then they also have apps on all the different platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, all that stuff. So, and you can just go to the website and they have links to all of that there as well. So, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to talk to you tomorrow. You're going to be on the show tomorrow, so that's going to be fun.
Thank you so much for joining. Great to see you again.
Yeah, thanks, Tusker. It was really good to meet you. And
I'll
see you tomorrow, Keaton.
All right, you got
Thanks,
it. Links
guys.
in the chat
Appreciate
here,
you.
tntradio.live. Thank you,
Yeah,
Misty.
thank you. Thanks, guys.
You got it. All right. Did I hear her say something about LaRoucheites? We got LaRoucheites swarming. We're being shouted down. We're being swarmed. This is a virtual action. This is an intervention. Surprise guests, everybody here. Jose Vega, Kynan Thistlethwaite. What's up, guys?
We're just out here looking for reasons to yell at people.
I know. I thought I forgot I invited you. I said, "Oh no, they're gonna come scream at me," and then I'm like, "Oh no, that's right. I invited them on."
I haven't blown up Nord Stream 2, so no reason to yell.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. No problem.
So yeah, guys, meet Tusker. She's my co-host for the evening. She was excited that you guys are coming on. And I was excited to have you guys because you guys were at it again this week. This time your target was Ritchie Torres, Congressman Ritchie Torres. So usually I set these segments up, but since I knew you guys were joining, I figure we are going to play the first two clips of your intervention there. Do you want to set this up, how you got there and why you went? And then we'll play those videos.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually a constituent of Ritchie Torres, first of all. I live in his district. I'm a South Bronx resident. I didn't like the guy when he first got in. I didn't like the guy when he got reelected. I still don't like the guy, period. He's a complete stooge. He's an Israeli lobby plant. He gets all his money from places like IPAC and stuff. He's an idiot. And I love him, though, because he's a human being. You have to love all human beings, right? But and so he was having this town hall. It wasn't even his. He was brought in by the Pelham Parkway Neighborhood Association, and there was some talk as to whether or not he'll show up because his aunt had just died. But lo and behold, he did. And actually, we were a lot kinder in this one because usually we start just shouting and cut them off. But he was actually taking questions. I guess he didn't realize I was in the audience. And so in the clips that you're about to play, you'll see what exactly we go into, because I don't think any other congressional member has been challenged, let alone has asked for the Cy Hirsch revelations to be brought up. So that's how it came up, and that's why we were there.
Yeah, no, I knew something was up because I saw you tweet out a picture of you and Ritchie Torres saying my favorite congressman. I'm like, they must be up to something because I know this can't possibly be his favorite congressman. And then sure enough, you were able to clarify that. All right, let's play. So we're going to play two parts. We're going to play Jose's, and then we're going to play Kynan's. So here we go. Here's part one.
Just released the fact, Cy Hirsch just released the fact that the United States blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. You weren't briefed on that. Why not? Are you going to put a congressional probe into that? Yes or no? Because this ain't no ordinary journalist. You know that.
So,
I want to hear what he has to say.
Nord Stream is a pipeline that transfers oil from Europe, particularly Germany. From Russia to Germany. So we don't have the authority to investigate pipelines.
All right, come on. Now that's bullshit. You know that. Victoria Nuland herself says she's happy that it's a pile of metal underwater. Do you share her sentiment?
Here's what we know. The Europeans are conducting an investigation.
They investigated her.
And it is true.
Why did Joe Biden say that we are going to get rid of the Nord Stream pipeline? And when asked, but wait a minute, that's run by Gazprom in Germany, how are you going to do it? He said,
we'll be able to do it.
If you have definitive evidence.
Yeah, we do. It's called Cy Hirsch.
Then produce the evidence.
He already
You already produced the evidence. Read the article.
Listen, this is Cy Hirsch. This is the My Lai massacre. Okay, this is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. He is not going to publish something he can't prove. So unless you're naive enough and you don't know that, I'm here to inform you. I'm at least asking for congressional inquiry into whether or not it's true, because his credibility alone should prompt that, don't you think?
The Europeans are conducting an investigation.
We know the United States did this.
It seems like you know the answer to the question. So there's no need to...
Well, what are you going to do? I'm your constituent.
Answer your question.
I'm your constituent. I want you to actually actually do something about it.
I'm going to try to answer your question once more, and then I'm going to move on. The Europeans are conducting.
That's a non-answer. What are you doing? Because if the United States did this, you are going to you have to hold them accountable. This is listen. We are on the verge of a nuclear war right now. I don't think you know that, and if the people here don't know that, they should. Look, you talk a big game about the Bronx. You talk a big game about a lot of things, but guess what? None of it's going to matter if we're all dead. Think about that for a second, right? You are leading us into a nuclear war. What's happening in Ukraine directly affects what's happening here. You don't think you're going to get us into a nuclear war? Is exactly how we get into a nuclear war. Now, as your constituent, I demand that you stop funding the Ukrainians. I understand that you're also an Israeli lobby plant. Look, how can you deny what's happening to the Palestinians, but you can defend what's going on in Ukraine? And now you're trying to erase their history. You are the biggest fraud. You think George Santos is a liar? You're the biggest fraud here.
All right. So that was part one, and then Kynan came in. Kynan, do you want to set up your segment there?
Well, it was a while after Jose had been thrown out. And, I came in with the same mindset. I mean, Torres, whatever you may think, he's giving us the opportunity to ask questions. And he actually, I think he probably answered every constituent's question in that room. So I'll give him that. So I addressed him respectfully as well. So I'll set it up like that, I guess.
He was a lot nicer than I was. He was.
Yeah, well, I was going to say here. Well, I'll show it how it started. Here.
I'll address you respectfully.
I'll address you respectfully. That's good. You guys have this great, good cop, bad cop routine going, where, Jose, smacks the guy across the face and breaks him, and then Kynan comes in 5 minutes later with the coffee and donut. Hey, don't mind my partner over there. He's a little hot-headed sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a very good act. You guys are really getting a good routine.
Yeah, you let him have a cigarette to kind of calm his nerves.
Yeah. Listen, we just want to talk. We just want to talk to you. That's all. Don't mind him. He gets a little hot under the collar sometimes. All right, here we go.
Seymour Hersh article, which said that the United States was responsible for the destruction of the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines. I'm going to be honest, it didn't seem like you knew about it, which is a concern, because Seymour Hersh, if you didn't know, this is one of the most decorated journalists in all of
familiar with Seymour Hersh, yes.
He broke the story.
I'm familiar with the article.
Familiar with Seymour Hersh.
And if Seymour Hersh,
when someone like him is saying something like that, it has to be taken seriously. And right now, there has been absolutely no mainstream coverage of that article, and they're trying to bury it. And another thing, I mean, the Bulletin of Atomic Sciences just said that we're now 90 seconds on the brink of midnight. We're the closest that we've ever been to a thermonuclear war. And listen, I get what you might think about what's going on in Ukraine. It's a tragedy. But the only way to save Ukrainian lives, to save Russian lives, to save everyone's lives is to actually push for negotiations. Because the war in Ukraine cannot be won. Over 100,000 people have died in Ukraine because we've been sending over $100 billion worth of arms over there to push conflict that can never be won. So I'm asking you, I'm sure you have a conscience, to actually lobby in Congress to start negotiations, to stop the brink towards nuclear war. Because frankly, all these other local issues, they may be important, but the most important issue of all of humanity is stopping nuclear war. I want you to make a commitment to that, because I believe you have a conscience.
Thank you. No one wants nuclear war, so I've addressed this issue. There's no answer that I can give you that's going to satisfy you. My view is Vladimir Putin chose to invade a sovereign nation state. He has committed atrocities, crimes against humanity. We are holding him accountable.
If NATO didn't
but we are not directly.
For the past 30 years, if we actually accepted Putin's security guarantees, which he wanted, we would not be in this conflict right now. So the fact, what you're saying, Putin started it, that's a lie. NATO and the U.S. started it.
Are you willing to stop taking money from corporations? Are you willing to stop Russia's?
Is that lady who asked, are you willing to stop taking money from corporations? Was she one of yours, or was she a regular?
Yeah, that's Deborah. She's with the Bronx Green Party. Very good woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just to be clear, one of ours is anybody who wants to yell at politicians.
I was just wondering. Because I have a question for you after this is done, but I guess I'll say it because we only have a few more seconds left here.
Let him answer. We disagree. We disagree. I think we.
On stopping nuclear war.
There's not going to be nuclear war. We are exhausting every means. We're not directly intervening. We're not directly combating Russia. We're helping. Let me finish. We're helping the Ukrainians. We're helping the Ukrainians help themselves.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Right.
Oh, that's it.
We're approaching
negotiations.
If Vladimir Putin were willing to negotiate for peace, then that would be one thing.
Hold it down. Hold it down. You're lying.
Hold it down. I'm lying.
It's amazing. You're right, Jose. I mean, that's what I've always thought of this guy. He's a fucking moron.
Yes,
I mean, the guy is a moron. You can tell from the way he talks he's a moron. He's not sure of himself about anything he says. He talks the way I would talk when I was supposed to read a book that I didn't read, and I had to get up in front of English class and talk about it, and I read like half of the Cliff Notes.
Nord Stream is a pipeline that
Germany
oil.
Yeah, right. It connects Germany to. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. It connects Russia to Germany. Yes, Nord Stream 2. Yes.
You see, there's
Hirsch. Yes.
countries in Europe and oil.
Yeah, connects oil to Europe.
This way.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And it's gas. It's gas, by the way, not oil. Like,
right.
This guy is a stooge. He's just a stooge that his aides or whatever people get paid to put some flashcards in front of him, and that's the reason why he looks so dumbfounded in this moment. I will give him at least I guess he was polite, and at least he was taking questions, and he wasn't just outright adversarial or calling you rude, like our favorite socialist,
like AOC,
so-called legislator AOC did. At least there's that.
I want to make it clear that I didn't set out to start yelling at these people. See, like the thing is, even before I did the AOC thing, I did something with Bowman, and I waited till the end because he said he was going to take questions. Never took a question, so I decided I have to be heard. Same thing with the AOC thing. Like when Kynan and I were discussing how we're going to go to AOC, we were thinking, okay, if you get the mic first, then you say this. If I get the mic first, we weren't thinking we have to get up. We have to, in our minds, we're like, well, shit, okay, these are planned, pre-written questions. We have to be heard. It's not a matter of we're intentionally trying to do it. And so with Torres, I told Kynan, start recording during his introduction. I said, you know what? Actually, no. If he's really going to take questions, let's see if he's actually honest. And he did. And in the unabridged version that I posted last night, I start out by saying, look, Mr. Torres, I'm known in the Bronx here for yelling at a lot of politicians, AOC, Bowman, Espaillat.
So you actually told him who you were. I mean, because he must have known who you were when you said that, because that AOC video went everywhere.
Oh, he knew. I saw his look on his face, and then I said, but I want to give you props for the fact that you're actually taking questions. So okay. So anyway, with that being said, and then Cy Hirsch that's how we plan these things out.
Yeah, if you guys keep going, they're just gonna have like your faces just posted in every single organizing event, just like back there. It's just like scan the audience for this guy. Maybe you'll get classified as a terrorist group by like the UN or something at some point. Who knows? I mean,
I hope I don't get on
really
a
to these guys.
I don't want to be on a no-fly list. That's my biggest.
Right? No, I'm obviously.
Yeah.
We'll have to start getting creative. We'll put on our, best Groucho Marx disguise or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys are going to be good. Well, you've had friends of yours, the disruption at the Obama rally right before the midterm, those were friends of yours, right? So you have people go out and, shout down all these people at, these various rallies and meetings and things like that. Ritchie Torres and AOC are from different, should we say, wings within the Democratic Party. Unfortunately, it's become evident over these past couple of years that there's not much distance between the corporate wing and the so-called progressive wing. But, Ritchie Torres signed on to the anti-socialism legislation that they passed through, is socialism evil, yes or no, right? So he's on the opposite side of those issues from AOC. Did you guys realize a difference in the crowds at those rallies? Like, what was the response you got at the AOC rally, which was I think it was pretty badly attended, if I remember. You guys were some of the only people in that room. tonight, obviously, this last rally, that was a smaller room, but it seemed like a full room. Did you notice a difference in the reception? Because these are two different kind of Democrats, at least in theory.
Kynan?
Yeah, I think it was a big difference. I mean, with the AOC thing, I remember it was Tina Forte, I think, and her posse that were there. And they were the ones that were heckling her in the beginning. And then there was this Latino guy, I remember, to the right of me, that was heckling her in Spanish for something relating to immigration. You know, some
And
really
Tina Forte was the Republican challenger for AOC's seat.
Right. So I remember, I mean, they were kind of, you know, applauding us when we were doing our thing. But other than that, I mean, you know, people weren't having it. With this one, I would say, I mean, you saw in my intervention, you know, there were people applauding. There were people that were legitimately had an issue with what Torres was saying.
Who weren't in on it, who weren't there with you, just people at the rally. Well, that's a good sign. That's a really good sign.
And we actually, I mean, I actually connected with a few people afterwards that, you know, wanted to get in touch with us, who want to, you know, continue collaborating to do these interventions. I mean, because the point is we don't want to be the face of it. You know, we want the masses, I think, to be the face of this movement, to get at their politicians. So I would say it was a difference. You know, more people are starting to wake up, I think.
And I also, this wasn't, the Torres event wasn't like a Ritchie Torres town hall. This was a local neighborhood association, which always has their regulars come in that invited Torres. So, and these were all like older people who, you know, their issues were like the mailbox gets stuck sometimes. And, you know, the stop sign needs to be more visible because these cars, you know, and so those were the kind of issues that they were bringing up to Torres, some of the UFO stuff. But these were regulars who happened to be coming in on the night when Torres was invited. And, you know, so they were real Bronx New Yorkers. They just, you know, yeah.
Well, you should have raised a concern like that at the end after. And by the way, the tree branches are growing in front of the stop sign. I can't see it. I almost got hit by a car the other day.
I got a lot to complain.
What do they say? Think globally, act locally, right? Should have gotten really pissed off about that at the end. Yeah.
Well, I remember Jose, at one point he said only federal issues, right?
Oh, yeah. He did say only, in the beginning, he said, I'll only take federal issues. But then he said, okay, I'll take questions on anything, because a lot of people had questions on other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Neighborhood association. And also there's nothing more federal than, you know, the War Powers Act and stuff like that. So, I mean, if anything, you were following his directions and asking him directly a federal question.
Exactly, of course. Yeah, no, and look, I mean, I don't know how he got elected. That's a lie. I know how he got elected. A lot of lobbyist money. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, see, the South Bronx is one of the poorest districts in the whole city, right?
Mm-hmm.
That also means it's some of the most controlled politically. Like, there are insiders after insiders.
Yes.
I had a Republican insider tell me straight up, no, don't ever think about challenging Torres. You know, he's okay. He's okay. I was like, you're part of the opposite party. Why are you telling me that? And that's how it works, right? They're all interwoven. They got their own people, you know.
Oh, yeah. Hakeem Jeffries, same thing. I mean, his area is probably not that poor now because a lot of Brooklyn is very gentrified. And I believe his area is, you know, sort of on an upswing. But yes, same type of thing. And this is New York, right? This is the old Tammany Hall stomping ground. And that dynamic is still very much in place. It really hasn't changed as much as we might like to think it has. Now, on the Nord Stream issue itself, because like you said, you know, you're absolutely right. Oh, that's a cool cat. I have two tuxedo cats myself. I love tuxedo cats. Oh, there he is. Hey. Oh, see, he's a screamer too. Yeah, like father, like son.
He's getting a little restless.
Yeah. You know, the Nord Stream issue, because like you said, Jose, I don't think any American politician has been confronted about this. It's just the level of gaslighting on this is just so incredible. We saw the Chapo Trap House guys brought up. The only reason I saw this clip is because somebody tweeted out this clip to like attack them. And so I played it because it said they were, you know, conspiracy mongering. And I forget which one of the guys said this, but he's like, okay, if Russia actually did blow up the pipeline, wouldn't we be hearing about it every day, all day, every day? Wouldn't mainstream media just run with that if they committed this heinous act? Like that right there should give away that they didn't do it. Because if they did do it, it would be front page news every single day. since it happens. But the other thing, I mean, you played a very brief snippet of this in your little video there, but I'll just play this whole thing. It's not long. Here's Joe Biden himself saying before the invasion, hey, if they invade, Nord Stream's going to go away. Here it is, straight from his mouth.
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
There you go. So what is controversial about this theory exactly? Like, I don't understand. Like I said, the level of gaslighting, how people just get away with calling people conspiracy theorists when the president of the United States on camera right before the invasion says, if Russia pulls the trigger, the pipeline's going to be no more, and we have ways of doing it. Like, I don't understand what...
It's the truth.
Of course. That's why I was like surprised that that I wasn't surprised that the audience was actually somewhat on our side. I mean, I was kind of happy about that these people were informed about what was going on. And, I'll just say on record right now, Chapo Trap House, they did a whole episode on LaRouche. It was pretty funny in my opinion. And by your logic, that guy is pretty funny too. So, I hope they watch this show because I want them to know, I have no hate towards them. Sometimes I watch their things. It's kind of funny. Sometimes I disagree. Anyway, not to go off topic.
It's okay.
But to go back to this topic of the Nord Stream pipeline, I remember when it first blew up, everybody was like, okay, United States. That was the United States. It was the United States. Nobody thought it was anything. Nobody thought the Russians would actually ever blow up their own stupid pipeline, right? And then they tried to play it off like it was some kind of accident. Of course, that didn't happen either. And then it was all swept under the rug. I was like, well, wait a minute. Where did the story go? Right? It happened, and then it was gone. It was like, okay, yeah, it happened. We don't really know. Maybe it was the Russians. Move on. Let's go. It's like, okay, well, there's definitely something else happening here.
Exactly.
I think it's because the Russians were too busy making sure the mailboxes got stuck. And obviously Putin has a master plan in here. Oh, and I just wanted to mention, I did see something. I listened to the Radio War Nerd podcast where they interviewed Cy Hirsch, and he talked about basically going out on his own, because I've heard a lot of people say he doesn't have any fact checking, he doesn't have anything like that, and he specifically mentioned that he hired an editor in order to still have that process because he needs to have someone to check him. So he is very much aware of that, and it just seems like everyone kind of is characterizing it as like Cy Hirsch sitting in a basement somewhere, just writing out some conspiracy screed. And that's not really what's going on, I don't think.
Right. No, of course. He's not going to want to get something wrong. I mean, this is a big, big deal. This is something that can, as he put it, it could end NATO, right? You're talking about something that can completely shift the dynamic for the next century, right? He's not going to want to get that wrong, because if he gets this wrong, I'm not saying he did, but let's just assume for a second that this whole story is wrong. I don't know. I don't think you could ever, nobody will ever take opposition to the war seriously again, because there might be some people who are kind of on the line on this war, maybe maybe we are giving too much money. I don't see it. Oh, I hope this Cy Hirsch thing doesn't turn out to be true. And then if it turns out to not be true, or he gets discredited somehow, those people are going to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to shut all that out forever. And they'll never come back.
I mean, to me, it's not even a question of did he get it right or did he get it wrong. He either has it right, or as Tusker, you said, he just made it up, right? I mean, this doesn't seem like the kind of thing you could really get wrong, honestly. It seems like the thing you either just make up out of thin air or you have it right. And my money is, of course, that he has it right, right? What are the odds that he would just make this up? It seems like a hell of a story to make up. It was about a 3,000-word article. If he made this up, he'd be much wealthier as a novelist than as a journalist, right? If he's able to spin narratives like that. I mean, it just makes no sense. The idea that Russia blew it up never made any sense at all. It's their pipeline. If they wanted to cuck Germany, they could just turn it off. What they got to go blow it up for? It makes absolutely zero sense. It's theirs. And we promised that we would take it out if they invaded. And now here you have a very reputable journalist who's broken several bombshell stories over the last 50 years saying they did it. I have a source that told me exactly how it happened. Could he be lying? Sure. Are the odds of that double digits? No. I would put it less than 1%. You know. So anyway,
anything, there are just small details that are wrong, but the overall story is correct. You know,
that's how I've seen people debunk it. They're saying like, well, no, this ship wasn't here on this time, on this date. You know,
yeah, that's OSNet. That's open intelligence stuff. That stuff that Bellingcat does. That's nonsense. Like that's there for a reason. It's there to throw people off the scent and to basically obscure what the real story is. But you know, that's kind of what I'm saying. I'm saying maybe it's a ship name that's wrong. You know, I mean, if anything, it's just small details. But the overall narrative of the story is 100% makes sense, and it's exactly the type of stuff that historically we've done in the past. I mean, how can you argue that?
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to.
Well, I guess I know since this is the last point, I guess the thing is, you know, who holds these people accountable? Because like the people who are supposed to hold the people who did this accountable are the ones in the highest seats of power. You know, we keep bringing it to their face. Yes. Now, I hope somebody is courageous enough to hold them accountable. Some congresswoman, AOC. Hopefully, maybe. I don't know. I hope.
Now you guys are doing all we can do at the moment. You know, just getting out there, trying to get the word out, and trying to educate the public whenever you can.
All right. Well, Jose Vega and Kynan Thistlethwaite, thank you guys so much for stopping in. Any way people can stay in touch with you guys, your Twitter handle, stuff like that?
You can follow me at HosBTrigga, JOSBTRIGGA at Twitter.
All right.
You can follow me at Nagatone, NOGGATONE.
All
we
right.
made these when we were teenagers. That's why they're stupid. So
I think they're fine. I think they're kind of cool. All righty, guys. Well, thank you. It was great to see you again. I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
All righty. You got it, guys. Bye-bye. All right. Jose and Kynan, that was fun. Let's do some super chats. Let's thank our patrons. Let's take care of some business here. Patreon members get call-in access to this show, so if you can, subscribe at patreon.com. It really helps us out. We want to thank our Patreon members for making this happen. We also want to do a like check, everybody. Please like this stream and subscribe to this channel if you have not already. That is very important. Subscribing to a YouTube channel, totally free. So please do that if you can. We're going to run down some super chats here, do a couple of quick headlines, and then do our final segment. John Locke, $10. I must confess I like anchovy pizza. Can I still watch the show? Of course. Of course. It's a virtual show, so we won't smell the anchovies from where you're at. So, yeah, feel free. Be our guest. V, oh, you're the person whose name I still can't pronounce, but I'm sorry. But thank you for the $11.99. Beautiful people doing good work. Thank you, guys. Well, thank you, V. I don't know if that was for Misty or the LaRouche guys there, but I think that applies to both. Red Z, thank you for the $2. Okay, what the heck? You're growing a beard? Say no to LSD. Yeah, I am growing a beard. I always start clean and then I grow a beard. You've been watching the show a long time, Red Z. You remember me with my beard. I don't keep a consistent hair length or facial hair length.
I refuse to co-host until he grew it out a little bit.
What's that?
I've said I refuse to co-host until you grew it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah, that's why I timed it like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool Blue. Thank you for the $1.99. A positive. The masks continue to come off. That was in reference to the World Socialist website and the nitpickers against Rage Against War. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that's a good point. I mean, you know, everything we said there, we meant. It's just absurd. Like I said, it's the left making itself smaller. Greenwald put it very, very well. He tweeted that out years ago, but that tweet stuck with me for a long time because I think it made a ton of sense. Let's keep going down here. We got some more super chats to get through. I want to make sure I get to all of them. Joyce, Jose and Kynan rock. Love you guys. Well, thank you, Joyce. Thank you very much for the $50. It is very generous of you. Appreciate that very, very much. Just making sure we didn't miss anybody here. Okay, Joyce, you're there. All right, let's see if I got any more. If not, we'll go on. What's that?
I think that's all I saw.
Oh, okay. Can you see the chat screen here on StreamYard?
No, I have another screen.
Oh, you have another monitor. Oh, wow. So she's a pro here. She's got everything set up, multi-screen and everything. Yeah, I believe that is all. All right, wow. Very active chat here, especially active chat. Thank you, guys, very much. And Kinky says, Tusker's doing a great job. You are doing a great job. See, she was nervous before the show. I said, you don't have to be nervous. There's no reason No reason to be nervous. After all,
Plus Holly also said, Tusker, don't be nervous, like right as the countdown was like.
I did see that. I did see. You got some encouraging words. All right. So we didn't do headlines at the top of the show tonight because we obviously had 2 interviews that we had to get to back to back. But we are going to do a few quick headlines now. One was from the Heartland Signal on Twitter. This is both funny and serious because Tusker has actually a pretty good point to make about this. But Minnesota State Senator John Jasinski argued against legalizing marijuana for a very specific reason. He was concerned about job losses. And by job losses, he meant it will result in a job drain for, yes, drug-sniffing dogs. Let's hear him make his case.
Police dog discussion, the police dog discussion of all that and retraining, what's going to cost our local law enforcement agencies who've done these dogs, who've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on these dogs to get these dogs drug trained, and now they're going to have to be retired. That's a big issue. I was the mayor of Faribault and actually did a fundraising campaign to raise money to get a police dog, to have a drug dog, and now that money is going to go away because these dogs can't be used anymore given that. So there's a huge cost there.
Yeah, there you have it. There you have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad day for the drug dog sniffing industry. But
they must have a good lobby, those dogs.
Yeah, and also just some weird things just in that clip because I hadn't seen the full thing. Number one, it was just some unfortunate language, like I've done the dogs, people that have done the dogs. That's just weird language. And then I swear to God, some guy was knitting on his side. I just kept seeing string coming out of it. So that was just kind of strange. But the point of this is like this is what always kind of some of the arguments that they always use. Like, what did we hear about some of the stuff for Medicare for All? Oh, well, what's going to happen to all the, private industry billers and coders, all the admins, they'll go find another grift. Or like essentially half of the billers and coders, Medicare would need a whole other new fleet of billers and coders. So probably 2/3 would go there. Mm-hmm. There are always going to be jobs for these people. And that's not a reason for us to halt progress on something. And also, I would happily pay someone $15 an hour minimum wage or more money to throw a stick to some dogs that have done a job.
Yeah, worst comes to worst, a few of these actuaries and sort of medical ethicists starve to death. Who the hell cares, right? It's not noble work to begin with. Deciding
I
who
can
lives
tell you
and who
right
dies.
Now,
It's like, fuck you. Your job shouldn't exist anyway. Go bag groceries. Go move shopping
carts. There are plenty of these guys that just sit there and it's like literally, because I kind of work in healthcare reimbursement a little bit, but they'll literally just go down there and they'll just be like, oh, check the box, not paid, not paid, not paid. And they'll just find whatever reason it is to deny people for absolutely necessary medical coverage. And then we're going to get sad if that person can't find a job denying people coverage or organs or any type of, clearance for medical services. Go back groceries. It'll be way more productive than what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm sure those dogs have a very powerful lobby or maybe a powerful super PAC or something like that because they're being looked after. I hear it's a law in Minnesota that the window has to be at least halfway down when a cop's riding with a dog. So you can stick his, head out and put his tongue out and get some air. They have that they have the government by the balls down there, those dogs. You don't want to
I'm sure they treat the dogs better than the people they arrest.
Yeah, I'm sure of that too. All right, let's go on to a second headline. We got 3 headlines tonight here, folks. 3 quick ones. This one is from the Wall Street Journal. You may have seen this one on Twitter. This got dragged pretty hard for good reason. To save money, maybe you should skip breakfast. It's advice to save money from the Wall Street Journal. Now, the ironic thing about this article is that it's paywalled, and I cannot for the life of me get past the paywall. I tried, but I can't. So the ironic thing about this is being marketed to people who can afford a Wall Street Journal paid subscription, who are probably not hurting over the price of eggs. But I'll read the first part of it until the text fades away. Several breakfast staples saw sharp price increases due to a perfect storm of bad weather and disease outbreaks and continued effects from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Oh, yes, of course. Egg prices increased 8.5% in January from a month earlier and are up 70% over the past year, the highest annual rate since 1973. There's, of course, an avian flu outbreak that they're blaming for this as well. And then that's it. We can continue reading, create your free account. That's nonsense. I created a free account. Doesn't get you past the paywall. This is not one of their free articles. Okay.
I mean, have you skipped enough breakfasts to afford the subscription?
I'm not a breakfast person anyway, so I've been skipping breakfasts for a while. I think I really I'll have a coffee in the morning, but I'm not a big breakfast guy anyway. But
skip lunch next, and then maybe you can get the whole article. You know what I always say? I really do think that everyone should just pull their stomach up by their bootstraps.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's all kinds of ways. There's all kinds of ways to save. I mean, you could die too.
I mean,
that's another thing. I've thought about that. How being dead is really a bargain. It's really great. You can go to jail.
Get over the initial because there's a little bit of a paywall there. Got to kind of deal with the crematorium or.
Well, that's for your loved ones to deal
with. That's an introductory price.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And then free from there.
You can go to jail, life in prison, free room and board. That's real cheap. That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
And you get 3 meals a day in jail. So you don't even have to skip breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're talking about skip breakfast. I mean, that's a little drastic. You could just get arrested. Just get arrested and go to jail for a few years. It's tough to get a job afterwards, I suppose. So you'd have to go to jail for life.
Maybe that's the whole.
You really want a life sentence of free food and room and board and all that.
Intermittent fasting, maybe that's a whole propaganda campaign. They're getting all these people hooked on intermittent fasting. Just as a way to, help you boost your savings so you can afford expensive gadgets and Wall Street Journal subscriptions. But really, I mean, to be honest, I feel like that article, that Wall Street Journal article, just like what you said, it's behind a paywall. That's not written for people that have to skip breakfast to afford their light bill. That's written for rich people so that they can then sit there and be like, these poors definitely need to be eating less. And, why are you homeless and have a cell phone? Oh, I don't know. How do I get a job if they can't call me? It's really just written as a narrative for them to hang on to and for them to look down on.
Maybe you'd be able to pay your rent if you didn't splurge on eggs. All those hard-boiled eggs you've been eating every morning.
Bastard! How dare you want protein?
Exactly. Eggs are really out of control. I mean, it is insane.
They really are now.
It's unbelievable. And I don't know how, because during the State of the Union, we had probably some Biden people who just stumbled upon our State of the Union stream because they saw it was the State of the Union. They didn't realize we'd be heckling it. Who was saying about the price of food is actually coming down, or the inflation rate is actually flattening. Not with food. I'm sorry. I work in supermarkets every day. I'm in supermarkets a couple hours a day on average. I know the food prices very, very well. They're going one way the wrong way.
I don't have like Keaton. You have a family. You've got 2 young kids and your wife and stuff. I'm single. And the last time I went to the grocery store, I really was like, how are families affording this?
It's brutal, man. I mean, my kids eat yogurt now. A thing of yogurt that's about this size is a mug. It's about a 20-ounce mug. So what do you get? Like 20 ounces of yogurt? Like $6 for yogurt. I mean, it's incredible. All this.
And how long does it? I mean, is that just like a single serve thing, or do you
No,
split it up?
I mean, well, for these guys, these guys eat. I mean, they're 4, so they're growing now. They're in a growth spurt. So yeah, they can pound that yogurt away. So yeah, I actually am buying the single serves now, even though they're slightly more expensive, not much more expensive, but they last longer because you give the kid a single serve of yogurt and he knows when he's done. That's it. You give a big vat of yogurt and you just scoop it out. He knows there's more, so he'll ask for more every time. You have to be kind of cute about how you
but you do a couple of those like $6 things in a week. I remember my parents, at least I seem to remember my parents complaining about $75 grocery bills whenever I was like 12 or something like that. And I remember that would be like full cart. You can't walk out of a grocery store for $75 with a full cart unless maybe you got like 3 bags of dog food.
No, you go in and now, you spend $85. You look, what did I get? I got some produce, some yogurt, some apples. I mean, it's brutal. It's absolutely insane.
To save money, you guys should eat dog food.
That's true. We could eat dog food. That's an idea. To save some money, switch to pet food. That could be the Wall Street Journal. Could be there. Now, I should write an editorial. What are you, a guest stop ed or a letter? What do they call them? Letters to the editor.
Yeah.
Suggesting, yeah. Birdseed. Birdseed.
Oh,
That's what I've
a
been
good
doing.
one.
I've been
And
I've
you
been
can get
putting
them in
birdseed in
feeders.
my cereal. It's almost like a granola type thing. Just sprinkle some birdseed in there.
And you can get them in those feeders, so it'd only be a couple of seeds at a
Yeah, you
time.
can
That way you
portion it
don't
out.
indulge. You
Yeah,
you
right.
definitely don't want to indulge
Cheat
on
proof.
birdseed.
It's cheat proof.
Mm-hmm.
Kynan gave us $5. So you didn't have to do that, my friend, but thank you for the donation. Thanks again for you both. Always happy to be on. Always happy to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much. All right, we got another super chat here. Virtuoso. Is there an Onion to Wall Street Journal pipeline? Funny headlines. Yeah, no, that was crazy. I mean, that was just amazing. Just amazing. To save money, eat less. As if that's like a clever it's a clever thing. Wall Street Journal should lead by example. Yeah, absolutely.
They're not, though.
No.
They're not.
La-di-da, look at Rockefeller over here with his yogurt. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, the kids are living
Audience
large.
is over here eating birdseed.
Yeah,
and
right.
You're bitching about yogurt.
Yeah, living large over there, absolutely. Tusker, this last headline was one that you found, and this was an interesting one. So I want to put this one up on the screen here. This is from The Hill. Trump's last defense secretary takes on the American war machine. So Chris Miller, who was President Trump's acting defense secretary, Trump's final defense secretary, has a memoir coming out called Soldier Secretary. And he gave a few quotes to the press here from the book. The more I thought, the more I was horrified, Miller writes in Soldier Secretary, a memoir released this week. We invaded a sovereign nation, killed and maimed a lot of Iraqis, and lost some of the greatest American patriots to ever live, all for a goddamn lie. Soldier Secretary offers an insight into the life of an American soldier who rose briefly to the top of the Pentagon as he grew increasingly resentful of the U.S. military-industrial complex, which he writes has now become a hydra-headed monster with virtually no brakes on the American war machine. Still, Miller is hopeful that the next generation of Americans can shake the U.S. out of foreign entanglements and the idea of policing the rest of the world. Now, one of the things I think was interesting about this, and you found this, is that it seems to me like this anti-interventionist foreign policy does seem to be a kind of a sticking point within the Republican Party now. It doesn't seem like it's something they're going to let go of all that easily. I'm not talking about most of the Republican congressmen, senators. I'm talking about the actual base, like the Trump base. That's one of the reasons why I think he's polling as well as he is, even though it's obviously close. I mean, DeSantis is only down by about 10. That's certainly not insurmountable this far out. So, I'm not punching Trump's victory ticket yet, not by a long shot. In fact, when all said and done, I have a feeling DeSantis is going to overtake him. But there does seem to be a real solid base within the GOP for anti-interventionist foreign policy. Mm-hmm. And I think that is kind of reflected in what he said there, where he feels an optimism about that too.
Yeah, I mean, well, I do think that has to do a lot with sort of where the base for where people kind of where they come from. I've heard people like Matthew Ho, and I can't remember his name right now, but he's one that I follow. He's kind of someone that was in the Iraq War and kind of dissents from it. And he talks about how, you have so many places, like so many people that come from the rural areas, which those places kind of typically tend to vote Republican. And so there definitely is like a base there. It's the people that are having to go to war, deal with the PTSD, struggle with the minutia of the system at the VA, which the VA is underfunded, and we just don't take care of our veterans in the way that we should. But so yeah, there's definitely a base there. Now I have my own theory about Ron DeSantis, but I just don't know if I think that Ron DeSantis is an establishment op. Because he's not good on foreign policy. So I think
certainly not.
Yeah. So I think what they're trying to do is the establishment is trying to get a Trumpian-like figure to basically be slight, because that was one of the complaints that people had about Trump is, they'd be like, well, sometimes he's a little bit outrageous. So I feel like they think that DeSantis is respectable enough but he's not going to interfere in the foreign policy stuff, considering his torture record at Guantanamo Bay. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think whether he is or isn't, an op, quote unquote, I think,
I know.
He definitely, I mean, he will certainly function as that because, he is the sort of bridge between the MAGA Republicans and the neocons, right? He's not one or the other. He's some of both. This just obsessive clout chasing with every culture war issue that comes up, injecting himself into that to get into the media. That obviously plays well with the MAGA crowd. But then, yes, I mean, he is not whatsoever the threat to the foreign policy wing of the, old guard within the GOP that Trump obviously was.
But honestly, even with that guy, even his defense secretary or whatever, I mean, thanks for giving us your concerns now that you've retired.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, look, a lot of these, I mean, Trump's presidency was this balancing act. I mean, we had, I hope I remember her name correctly. I'm pretty sure Sarah Flanders. She was the anti-war activist that we did, that we interviewed in advance of that rally. It's something like that. I hope I didn't forget her name. If I did, I'm sorry. She sort of took issue with what I said about how Trump seemed to be the only person in Washington over the past, 15, 20 years who didn't want this Russia-Ukraine war to happen, because she cited that, yes, he was hawkish against Russia in his own way. But I'm sorry, to me, it seemed like he was hawkish against Russia the way a real estate guy beats up on his competition, in the sense that he knows how far he can take a deal without blowing it. Business is about knowing how much you can piss off the other person without blowing the deal. And I feel like that's how he handled this. That's how he handled this. And by the liberal media's own admission, this war likely would not have happened if he were, still in the White House. And so,
right.
I think that is a good argument. I think that's a sound argument. And so, I think the way that primary is going to play out, we'll have to wait and see. I think it's all going to depend on just the state of the country, how people feel economically, how weak Biden is. I think the base obviously is in love with Trump. They want Trump, but they just don't know if they can run Trump again because of all the baggage. I think if Biden is looking incredibly weak and it's looking like any Republican can beat him, they're going to be feeling a lot of mojo. They'll probably pick Trump in that circumstance.
Yeah, I think
if they're
so too.
feeling a little more careful, if they heed the lessons of the midterms and things like that, then, I think DeSantis definitely has a chance there.
Yeah, I think Russell's because Russell said that he's like, I'm telling you, he'll be your next president. I am 100% in for the Williamson-Harris 2024. That I know will just light the fire of the Democratic base just nationwide.
We haven't talked about Williamson in a while. Now the progressives, after the State of the Union, are saying they don't want to run anybody. So I don't know what the infrastructure of her campaign would be right now. Still waiting for Kyle and Crystal to do a follow-up on that.
Well,
I want to see what they have to say.
Dark Brandon over there. Like at one point in that speech, he just devolved into just screaming about Xi Jinping or whatever. Kind of going on there for a second, which I thought was pretty funny. No one would want to be the president of China. And then meanwhile, he's like, I want to be the president of China. Like, it's just so crazy.
Tusker, you need to hide your booze better.
Talking about my empty wine bottles up here.
Yeah, I didn't even notice them.
So that was something that I did from a long time ago. Whenever I would drink a bottle of wine with friends, no matter where it was, we would take a picture and I'd put the picture in the bottle and then put it up there. So that's all that.
Got it.
But
All
yes,
right. Well, let's do our third and final segment of the evening, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have no special guests for this segment. We just have a few videos that we're going to want to play here. Last night, a public meeting was held at an East Palestine, Ohio gymnasium. The event was supposed to be a town hall for residents to ask questions and voice their concerns to Norfolk Southern. They were supposed to attend this town hall meeting. But when residents arrived, Mayor Trent Conaway announced to the crowd that Norfolk Southern had bailed. And so let's watch this. Forgive the sound quality here. There was only one stream of the event, and this was not even from that stream. This is obviously someone in the crowd taking it from a cell phone, so the sound is a little tough to make out, but I think we'll get the gist of it. This is the mayor announcing that Norfolk Southern will not be showing up.
The question is raised, why are people getting sick if there's nothing in the air and the water? And the animals. And the animals. What?
Where's Norfolk Southern?
There was reports that they were scared for their safety before they got here. There's police everywhere. Why? We're scared. Why can't we get answers? Because they're afraid to answer questions. Norfolk Southern was invited. Hear me out. Norfolk Southern was invited. They were the ones that were pro this cable thing when I was against it and wanted to have it in the auditorium. Okay? We invited them many times. They were at all the meetings. Then the day I get a phone call that they didn't feel safe. I understand, sir. I'm just as frustrated as you. I'm just as frustrated as you guys. Listen, this can't. I understand everybody. I'm just as frustrated. I live in a community just like you. I'm trying to get answers. I literally cannot force them to be here. You can see how.
All right. So if you heard that, obviously it was a little tough to hear. They said, where's Norfolk Southern? They backed out, citing safety concerns, I guess threats of physical violence that they reported having received from people. One of the people in the crowd said there's cops everywhere, which is of course true. If they didn't feel there were enough cops there to keep them safe, what they may take in $12 billion last year for 50 grand, they could have gotten a full security detail, top to bottom, a full escort, the whole thing. There's absolutely no excuse for them not to have been there. What do you mean physical safety? Look, angry residents go to town hall meetings all the time. Like, this is not a country where we just have normalized outbursts of political violence. Like, you owe it to these people to go to the event. There are cops everywhere. You can hire security if you feel unsafe. You owe it to this town to show up there.
With all that $12 billion in profits and those dogs that are out of jobs, I mean, I feel like that's a great opportunity to deploy those dogs and get some extra security in there. There was another thing that he had said, said they didn't feel safe. And at one point he had said, like, look, they've been invited. This was the tables here. This was their idea. I wanted to do it in the auditorium and have it more be like a regular town hall. I'd kind of made out some of that stuff. He was saying he was just as frustrated. I mean, obviously, that's incredibly frustrating. You know that got a huge audience because they've had serious questions that they wanted to ask the company.
Of course. They showed up because they thought they were going to be there.
And instead, now all they have is just to yell at this mayor who was just doing the best he could, which, and they weren't rude. I don't think that they were rude to him. Obviously, some people were frustrated, but I mean, basically, he's just doing damage control from the company that was too scared to face people.
Yeah, I mean, he's a small town mayor. The mayor of a small town doesn't even make enough as mayor of a small town to make it the full-time job. The mayor of Newburgh, New York, where I live, Newburgh's a city of 20,000 people. The mayor he teaches, right? That's his day job. Doesn't even get a full-time salary from the mayor of a city of about 25,000. This is a small town of 4,700 residents. This poor guy has to deal with this. And now, like, none of this is his fault, obviously. But now he's got to be there fielding all of these questions, all of these comments, when it would, the people supposed to be there were the people who derailed the train. They had agencies there, they had the EPA there to try to answer questions about safety and things like that. But obviously, the main question of accountability for this needs to be directed at Norfolk Southern. So let's hear a brief interview clip from the mayor, Trent Conway. This was, I thought, a really sort of honest moment. Obviously, he is a small town mayor. He is not a big wig politician, but still, this is the kind of honesty you rarely hear from people in his spot.
Because they're scared for their safety. The reality is your town is under a microscope. The EPA administrator is coming tomorrow. Yes, what is your message for him? What do you need?
I need help. I'm not ready for this. I wasn't built for this. I always thought of myself as a leader of men, and I have the village on my back, and I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. This is my town. I'm not going to sell my house. I'm not going to move my kids out of the school. I'm here to stay, and they're going to make it right, and that's it. That's it. I'm done playing games. They're not playing games either. It's not he said, she said. They screwed up our town. They're going to fix it. If they don't, I'll be the first one calling all you back to do this all over again. What is it?
All right. See, I mean, he just seems like a pretty genuine guy. I mean, I've only known who this guy was for the last day or so. I don't know anything about him. But, yeah, he just seems like a very, very genuine guy who's obviously in an impossible spot here, and he's got to, he has to be the liaison between the community, the agencies, and Norfolk Southern, who he's been in touch with. So, that's an impossible balance to strike. And, just a very refreshingly honest moment of saying, look, I'm not ready for this. Like, I'm the mayor of a town of 40. I didn't sign up for this shit. Like, I need help.
That's the whole entire thing. Like that mayor doesn't know anything about the chemicals that were dropped. I mean, now he probably knows a little bit just because it's been in the news or whatnot. But like, that's what he needs. Like I'd heard something. I don't know if, I don't think it was at all connected to these interviews that you're showing us. But like, I'd heard something about like some lady was angry that Norfolk Southern wasn't there because she's got 5 kids. And she was like, I just need to know if I can bathe my kids in the water. These are the types of just like very basic questions that people at this town hall needed. And that's not something that the mayor can answer because he doesn't know those things about those chemicals. And so we just literally sat there and they said, what do you need? And he said, help.
Right.
Help. Like there is so much to be done for those people in that small little town that you can't even make a list and prioritize things. You're just saying we need someone in here to like help us figure out and chart a path forward and correct the situation. I hope someone will, maybe there's an attorney pro bono or something that'll go help them. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to have to be lawsuits. I heard that there was a class action lawsuit filed. I have to follow up on that. But obviously, there's going to have to be restitution for this that goes far beyond just the insultingly low dollar amount that Norfolk originally offered, which was $25,000, which, as many people have pointed out, that's $5 a head. That's $5 per person. Like I said, with the profits they've been raking in, it should be double that per household, in my opinion. Every household that had to evacuate should get $50,000 for this. If not more.
I mean, but honestly,
that would cost what? Let's say there's 2,000 households times $50,000. So what's that? $10 million bucks?
Yeah, something like
nothing.
That.
Yeah,
that's chump change. But honestly, that like $25,000, $5 each, they can get some yogurt.
Yeah, right. Exactly. One thing of yogurt. Yeah. Well, actually, there was someone out there. This guy's name is Rob McFadden. He brought a van full of water bottles, cases of water, and handed them out at the line going in to the town hall meeting. So I'll play a brief snippet from him.
I was thinking of like a single mom that has, those houses next to the railroad. Those aren't nice $1 million homes. I'm guessing those people are probably living paycheck to paycheck. And I think of that mom that has a couple kids. And do I wash my kids in this poisoned water that the EPA says is okay? Or do I spend my last $6 on a case of water? That's not right.
Yeah, see? So there is some class consciousness out there, and this goes back to what we were talking about with Misty at the top of the show, I'm sure that guy doesn't identify as a Trotskyist, right? Maybe he does. Probably
well, then
doesn't.
He's out. He's out.
Right.
Gross.
Exactly. Take your fucking water back in your van and get out of here.
Right-winger.
You're right. I don't want any of that right-wing water that you have in your van, But he's handing that out. He says, if it's $6 a case of water and, you're living close to the line and, you got to give your kid some water to drink. He brought a case full. and handed it out. We're going to play a little bit more from some residents here. I believe this was the BBC actually got a hold of this footage. I don't know who shot it originally. I will definitely put a link to it in the description of the video once we wrap. But here are just some other residents.
I feel that if this did happen somewhere else, it would have been handled totally different. So we are getting treated very differently than if we were a large city. And I think that maybe they feel that they can take advantage of us because we are a smaller town. And I hope that that's not the case. But what rolls through on those tracks is of more value than the lives of the residents in this community at the end of the day.
I came from California. I'm used to the big city. I was born and raised there. We came out here to get away from all that riffraff and all that stuff that's going on. So we picked this town. My mom was born and raised out this way. We found this nice little quiet town. It's been great when we moved in here. Train didn't bother me at all. But all of a sudden it seemed there was more and more and more and more activity. And now they're going through here faster. So if they're going through here faster and they're hauling all these unknown chemicals and tanks and everything, who's to say what's going to happen?
Meeting tonight was to ease people's minds and their hearts. You know, there's a lot of concern. We all know that we're not going to get every answer. So we come here and hope that we will get the right ones. And I think how it was set up tonight and with the withdrawal of Norfolk didn't really represent how much they care about the concerns that we have as a community, as a small town in the heartland of America.
Yeah, so they're just some of the people who attended that town hall. I thought it was interesting that that first woman there said, you know, if this had happened in a bigger city, people would care more. It just shows, you know, just that level of disenfranchisement, the feeling that you don't matter, that you are forgotten, really transcends a lot of boundaries, a lot of distinctions between people that we like to think exist. Obviously, a city like Flint, Michigan, with the water crisis there, that is an element of, that is a function of the city being poor. That's also a largely African-American city. This is a largely white city. But you see, especially throughout this part of the country, I mean, you know, this kind of stuff like this, this is how people like Trump win. And I know people say, well, what do you mean Trump undid the regulations for the breaking, you know, and but that's all true. That's all well and good. And by the way, the Obama era breaking regulation, by the time it passed, was watered down to the point where vinyl chloride was not on the list of substances that would have required the trains to be marked as high hazardous flammable trains. So yes, Trump was wrong to repeal the law, obviously, but it wouldn't have stopped this from happening because that law had already been watered down to the point where these substances would have been loaded onto this train. As the second guy in that video clip said, longer trains with heavier loads moving faster, right? In business, they call that efficiency, but obviously it comes with certain risks. And so this feeling that, well, if this had happened elsewhere, if this had happened in a big city, this would have been dealt with differently. That is the kind of resentment that leads to a right-wing populist wave. You can make the point to them that, yes, right-wing politicians are more likely to deregulate and therefore make the situation more dangerous, but that doesn't trump the just visceral rage that people rightfully feel when they understand, rightfully so, that they're being ignored because of who they are and where they live. Whether you're black, white, right? If you live in one of these poorer areas in the middle of the country, you are, as Trump said himself, you're the forgotten man and then the forgotten woman. And that's how these people feel. I mean, look at this photo. Look at that. That's an aerial photo taken from, obviously, a passenger airplane. Just somebody snapped this photo flying over East Palestine, Ohio.
Yeah, that looks fine.
I mean, it looks like a cancerous tumor. Like that's how a skin cancer tumor looks on a person's skin. And they that's, I mean,
it's absolutely like a melanoma. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I mean, and that's just disgusting. And that was there for for a long time. I mean, there was another video that I'd seen where you just saw, I mean, it was just all of it. And like people were like, these aren't storm clouds. This is like growing up from that. But you know, as far as she was saying, this wouldn't have happened in a bigger city. And yes, I do agree with her. It wouldn't have happened in a bigger city. It only happens in small, poor places. And also sometimes that stuff does happen in big cities, but it's through the ghettos.
Right.
You know, so that's the type of class consciousness that, you know, people need to start to, or like what it is, at least I try to foster, and what I feel like you and Russell like try to foster, as far as instead of kind of based on the identity of people, you know, you say we're all facing the same thing, and the thing that we're facing is that we're poor, we're working class, we have no power, we have no representation, and there are no politicians that are going to hold the companies responsible. They're not going to regulate things in an appropriate way, and we're going to have to rely on people spending their own hard-earned money to show up and give us single mother bottles of water.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Right.
exactly. And that's the spirit of this. I mean, in political circles, they would call that like mutual aid, right? What that guy's doing. But you know, that is where people are at right now in terms of their thinking, because where else does it, I mean, it doesn't make sense to think of it any other way, right? I mean, you really can't make the case that there's any other viable means to actually making people's lives better, right? When the system just does not respond to any kind of democratic input, the only thing you could do, if you're an ordinary person, is load your van full of water, bring it to the people, give the people water who need water. That's it, right? That's it. And what that guy's doing, loading his van full of water and bringing it and giving it out, this is an example. I mean, this is a very, very small example, but this is why I made this point. This is why we were so hard on the Marianne Williamson bullshit, because what that guy's doing, buying whatever, a few $100 worth of water and driving it to people who need it, that guy is putting wins on the board for ordinary people. He's actually helping people. He's putting his time and his resources to actually deliver results. In this case, it is a small result of a case of water for a family who needs water, but it's something. Pissing your money down the drain for these failed candidates who, even when they win, don't deliver anything. That's a monumental waste of time and resources. You're better off bringing water to a town hall meeting than you are getting, taken down that road for now a third time. And that's just, I mean, when I say a third time, I'm obviously talking about 2016, 2020, next time, but that applies everywhere. That applies to congressional races, right? I mean, at a certain point, you just have to say, okay, all we can do is organize outside of the electoral system to deliver for people, right? And that's a small example of that.
Yeah. I mean, or you can take the $30 that would have taken you to buy the water, and you can sit behind a very expensive clear desk and chastise everyone, for not believing in someone that's going to sell you down the river later on.
Right. Exactly.
Sell you down the chemically contaminated river later on.
Exactly.
But my God, feels good. Crystals and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to put this super chat on the screen. Where is it? I can click on it, but why can't I put it up on the screen? It's from Joyce. Sorry, Joyce.
Well, if you can't put it up, I can say Joyce gave $5. She said, I saw on another show that the companies that own this Norfolk company gives to all the major news organizations. Look into it. We will do that, Joyce.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joyce. I finally found it. Sorry, I was looking at the top of the screen. I was clicking on it. Gives to all the major news organizations, the companies that own this Norfolk company. Yeah, I will look into that. I did a little video about Mayor Pete's, just recorded, on my own time and put it out. It wasn't part of a stream or anything. That, these are very deep-pocketed organizations. There's a lot of money in transportation. Norfolk Southern has its own PAC. It's called the Good Government PAC. In the last midterm cycle, they donated almost $750,000, $725,000. And it was pretty evenly split among Democrats and Republicans. They actually used to donate more to Republicans than to Democrats. This last cycle, they actually donated more to Democrats. But it was fairly close. Oh, but that's how they do it. I mean, when you have money to throw around, that's how you rig a fight, right? You rig a fight by paying both the winner and the loser, right?
Yep.
This
Yep.
way you hedge your bets.
And you pay whichever one and to go down,
Exactly.
and to fake it. You know?
Bippin is a patron supporter. He's on the chat here. He's not going to speak, but he is on the chat. He wanted me to read this. He says, I'm from India, and as an Indian, it's astonishing how non-cynical Americans sound, even in the midst of such tragedy caused by other people. I hope the later generations don't lose this positive outlook. I mean, I think generally what you're saying is true. I think it depends on, it really does, unfortunately, depend on your proximity to the issue itself, right? Like the residents of Ohio are not taking any shit about this, right? They're not under any illusions that they're being well taken care of here. When it comes to issues that are grander in size that everybody is just, sort of naturally further from, like the war in Ukraine, right? For people are much more sort of susceptible to mainstream narratives. I mean, if the United States did blow up the Nord Stream 2, people are talking about, I saw Nathan Robinson tweet out that would be an impeachable offense. Yeah, no shit, that's an impeachable offense. That is a murderous act to bomb a pipeline. You could kill people. People in Germany could freeze to death over that. Some of them may have frozen to death over that, right?
Well,
and so there's a lack of cynicism about that in the sense that people just kind of understand that, yeah, it probably happened, but whatever. Whereas when it's something that happens in your town and there, as we just showed you earlier, there's this hovering over your hometown, then it's a lot easier to be more cynical, which in this case just means being more realistic.
Yeah. That's just like a hovering chemical sphincter over that entire town. And also, I mean, not to like crap on Robinson too hard, but I mean, that level of analysis that he just gave, you'd have to have a velvet suit in order to be able to come up with that. And like those little frills that you have underneath. It's just, come on, seriously, you really think so? Blowing up major infrastructure to an ally, not even an enemy.
Yeah, exactly. To an ally.
With friends like these.
Right. Exactly.
And then people think that if they can do that to one of their greatest allies, one of the people that they're just like pushing to send Leopard tanks into Ukraine, begging them to do it. You think they care about East Palestine, Jackson, Mississippi, Flint, Michigan, the homeless in San Francisco? No.
Right.
No. They care about lining their pockets.
No, of course. Anthony Malecki, thank you for the $5, my friend. Keep up the good work. Awesome guest this week. Well, thank you. Glad you're enjoying it. I hope Russell's enjoying these shows too. I think he watches them whenever he gets Wi-Fi out there. Joyce, thank you for the $5 again. BlackRock and Vanguard, I believe. Okay, I will definitely look into that. We're obviously not anywhere close to done covering this East Palestine thing. This is only the beginning of this. And these are the kinds of stories that, in all seriousness, I do feel like we as independent creators have a responsibility to cover. This is really what makes the show worth doing, right? I mean, it's fun to rag on Kyle and Crystal every once in a while, right? We're not above doing that, right? We like having fun. But whatever value exists beyond that to the show comes in the form of stories like these, where, it really falls to independent creators to talk about this stuff, because you're seeing almost none of it in the mainstream media. For a week, you didn't see any of it. I mean, this was really a story that the internet sort of forced into the conversation. You have seen MSNBC cover this a bit now. You have seen CNN talk about this a bit now. Not nearly as much as they should. New York Times has covered this a bit now. But this was nowhere until Twitter started posting videos and photos and things like that. And one of the things that the mayor said was that he doesn't want, he doesn't want people posting like homemade science experiments where they test the water and they say, aha, look, the water's fucked up, because he doesn't know which ones to trust and which ones not to trust. So he asked people to stop doing that. And so like there were videos that like, you know, I didn't show that I found of people taking pictures of, you know, contaminated water. You know, I try to verify everything obviously before I post it, because I think what he's saying makes sense. He doesn't want this barrage of information where it becomes impossible to sort the good info from the bad info. But the volume of material that just sprouted up online in response to this is what forced this into the conversation. The media would not be covering this at all if Twitter didn't make an issue of it, if YouTube didn't make some sort of noise about this. And so I think there is real value in doing that.
Covering it, like I mean, I haven't seen the MSNBC and CNN things. I'm sure that there have been 1 or 2 segments on it, but I'm sure that they're not covering it in the same way that content creators like you and Russell would be covering it. You know, like
Sirota did a great job too. Got to hand it to Sirota. I know people have mixed feelings about him, but you know, one of the reasons why I try not to, you know, I try not to be as nasty to guys like that as I would to some of the other pundits is because they do get on the ground and do stuff like this. I mean, his write-up on this was the definitive write-up that More Perfect Union used to put their thread out that a lot of other outlets ran on. So, you know,
Jon
have
Stewart
to
did
give
a
it up there.
podcast and had a reporter from The Lever on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, David Sirota is doing good work, and he did, you know, do good work on it. But what I'm talking about is the stuff that's beamed into, you know, the homes of, you know, the people that are going to sit there and tell you to vote blue no matter who, and you know, shriek if you say a single bad word about Biden. They're not getting the coverage, you know.
Oh no, of course not.
So that's the reason why these types of things are incredibly important. And also, I don't know, I can't remember if you guys covered it whenever you were talking about it with Jay. There was that journalist that was arrested. Chat, have you guys seen the journalist being arrested whenever he was trying to cover the?
Yeah, I did see that video. He showed up to ask questions of, I think it was the governor there giving a press conference or something like that. I think it was DeWine was there. Yeah.
From what I understand, he was there, and I guess like the governor was supposed to start earlier or whatever, and he had a scheduled live broadcast. Right. So basically, he went to do his live broadcast at his scheduled time, and then the governor started speaking. So he tried to get off so he could hear it, but they were upset with him because he was doing his live broadcast, which he was trying to end, and so that was their initial complaint with him. But that was, I mean, you know, he had it scheduled, and the governor started late, I think, is like how it went. But yeah, so basically, they got upset with him for doing that, and they wrestled him to the ground. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that was obviously, you know, that's a terrible thing to see. I didn't put that on the screen just because honestly, I mean, and this says a lot. Honestly, I just wasn't surprised by that. I didn't find that to be the most newsworthy part of the story because, you know, cops roughing up, you know, reporters. Obviously, there's no reason that should happen in a, you know, an ostensibly free country with a, you know, functioning First Amendment. But, you know, maybe that was an extreme example, but you know, I've been to enough events where you've had photographers there, you've had reporters there try and get access, and, you know, they don't get thrown on the ground and, you know, roughed up like that, but they get kicked out by, you know, these thuggish cops and stuff like that. So that to me, unfortunately, I mean, yes, it was an extreme example because of just how physically they treated him, but it's nothing new. Guys show up with cameras, a cop thinks, well, I don't want this guy here, you know, so they have their way of just getting him out of there.
The reason why I thought that was kind of interesting is yeah, sure, maybe it might have been more like physical and stuff like that, but it was just an example of, you know, you'll sit there and we'll go, oh, Putin's propaganda, or, you know, name a country, and we talk about, oh, they control their narrative. Like, we don't do it here. You know, once again, it just seems kind of like projection. You know, like we think that we get all the information. I mean, I think not your audience, you know, we're well aware of it, but kind of a lot of normies probably just don't really even know that, you know?
Yeah, no, sure. No, absolutely.
That way.
Absolutely. 2-Bit Da Vinci is the guy. Oh, that's the guy who you found that out from, Joyce? Yeah, I will look into that. I'm assuming that's a Twitter handle. I will look into that. All right. Is that everything we got tonight? I think that's everything we got.
Yeah,
How about a round of applause for Tusker? Tusker did a great job. Thank you, Tusker. See, you were nervous for no reason. Let's see those clap emojis on that chat here. How about that, everybody?
Maybe just one. No, I'm just kidding. And then also go ahead and like the stream if you've forgotten.
Yes, make sure you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed to the channel yet. Just going to do one last perusal here for any questions, comments. If anybody's feeling generous at the last second, they want to hit us up with one last super chat if you want to get a question in. If not, I'm just going to look for some other questions. I don't really see too many questions. I see some comments here.
Steve, I'm sorry you missed it.
Oh, Steve just got here?
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
JR, give you a nice round of applause. We're Pilgrim, hurrah for Tusker. Oh yeah, I see. Steve missed the whole damn thing. That's all right, Steve. This will be up.
I mean, I'm no Russell. I'm not nearly as silver haired. You know?
Well, that's true. You are.
And I really was actually trying to figure out if there was some way I could construct like Boeing bookcases with like cardboard and stuff. Like,
we should have put you in touch with Extra Bulla, our visual effects guy, because he superimposed that. For those who didn't know, he superimposed that. He has a green screen, so he made it look like he was in Russell's place. It actually came out really good.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Tyler.
thought that was pretty funny.
Jay the Informant. Round of applause, a couple party hats. Yep, you got very good reviews. See?
Oh, okay.
No
well, thank you. I tried.
There you go. No, you did great. Absolutely. Folks, please like this stream. Please subscribe to this channel. If you can, subscribe to patreon.com/do dissidents and help support this show. I'll give our Patreon members one last shout out here. Since Russell is gone this month, I'm going to do Patreon content probably by myself, but I'm thinking if the patrons would be into doing this and message me through Patreon if you are, maybe we can do a few just Patreon exclusive hangout streams with you guys. Because, you know, what Russell and I usually do is we record 4 different videos, you know, throughout the month, and make them exclusive for the Patreon members and the paid Substackers. He's obviously in India, so I'm going to have to do something a little different for the patrons. Not that he won't be available to record. He might be. But even on shows where he is set to come back, I'm booking guests so that in case there's a technical hiccup, we still have a guest host. But Russell should be back not this Sunday. This Sunday, the 19th, we have Lila Charles Lee. I forget if she pronounces it Lila or Layla. I think it's Lila. And Pat the Burner, formerly Pat the Burner on Twitter. Everybody knows that handle. He has a huge following there. But now he's just Pat, no longer the Burner. But they will be guest hosting with me on Sunday night at 7 p.m. I am hoping we will have some footage from the Rage Against the War Machine rally to play that night so we could do sort of a recap of that event. But obviously we'll cover a couple other topics then as well. So everyone, please subscribe to the channel. No, YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, so that channel's on YouTube. Thank you, Joyce. Should I keep asking you questions about it so you keep donating $5? What's the name of the YouTube
Wait,
channel,
are you
Joyce?
sure it's on YouTube, Joyce? Another $5?
Yeah, right. Are you sure? Can you tell us the name of the channel? Can you
Yeah.
provide a link with a $5?
How many views do they normally get?
Yeah. Right now, what's their like to comment ratio? Do they get ratioed? Yeah.
Is
just
there any
keep
like
inquiring.
crossover with the audience? $5?
Yes, exactly. Yes, they are
Oh,
from the
thank
Punch
you.
Up podcast.
thank you so
Where was
much.
it? I just saw that. Lila and Pat from the Punch Up podcast on Sunday. Someone just announced that for us. Yeah, we're Pilgrim. There you are. They're going to be guesting with me on Sunday night. Reflect the Sun. Thank you, Reflect the Sun, for the $5. We appreciate that very much. Thank you guys for your generosity this evening. Thank you for a wonderful chat. And Tusker, seriously, great job. Thank you so much for
Hey,
doing
thank
this.
you. I enjoyed being here with all these, whatever the Vanguard called it. Despicable.
Deranged, what do they call it? Deranged,
Deranged.
depraved, and delusional.
Yeah.
Jimmy Dore stands. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm glad I was here with these deranged and deplorable,
Yeah.
whatever. Of all the D words, I'm glad I was here with you guys.
Yeah, no, it was a fun crowd, a fun show. Great guests. We want to thank Misty Winston for coming on, Jose Vega, Kynan Thistlethwaite. We had a full house in here tonight and a packed show, but I thought this was a really fun one. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for an active chat. Tusker, thank you again. We'll see you guys all back here Sunday night, 7 o'clock. Be safe. Be well.
Bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Please clap.